All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're digging into something pretty ancient, but it's a diagnosis for a feeling that I think a lot of us know all too well, especially today.
I mean, it's a weird paradox, right? Life can be objectively good. You've got the job, the family, your health is fine, but there's still this hum in the background, a kind of dissatisfaction, like something's just not quite right. So here's the thing. If you look at some of the world's oldest texts on the mind, they'd say, yeah, we know that feeling. It's not a modern problem at all. In fact, they pointed a single root cause for it, a mental habit they called clinging.
Okay, so before we can even talk about the solution, we have to really get our heads around what the problem is according to them. What are we actually dealing with here?
And they had a specific word for it, dukkha. Now, you might see this translated as suffering, but that's kind of misleading. It's not just about big, dramatic pain or some terrible tragedy. It's much, much more subtle than that. It's that underlying stress, that feeling that something is just a little off or out of joint, even when things are going great. So this became their central question, the thing they really zeroed in on. Where does this feeling actually come from? What's the real source of this dukkha?
And the answer they came up with is, well, it's fascinating. They said the problem isn't out there in the world. It has nothing to do with your circumstances. The problem is in here. It's all about how we relate to the basic components of our own conscious experience.
They broke it down into what they called the 5 aggregates. Just think of these as 5 buckets that every single moment of your experience falls into. First, you've got rupa. That's your physical body, the sights, the sounds, the whole material world. Then vedana. That's just the raw feeling. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or just neutral? After that comes sanya, or perception. This is where your mind slaps a label on everything. Oh, that's a good sound, or I don't like that feeling. Then you have sankara, your mental formations, all your thoughts, your opinions, your habits, your intentions. And finally, vijnana, which is just the raw awareness that knows all the other 4 are happening.
Okay, now this is the absolute heart of the whole diagnosis. The text says it right there. The 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. Notice what it's saying. It's not that your body is suffering or your thoughts are suffering. No, it's the act of clinging to them that is the suffering. The problem isn't the experience, it's our white-knuckled grip on the experience.
And, these weren't just vague philosophical ideas. These thinkers were incredibly systematic. They were like engineers of the mind. So they didn't just say, clinging is the problem. They mapped out the entire chain of causation, step by step, to show exactly how suffering arises.
And it looks like this. It all kicks off with tanha, or craving. This is super simple. It's just wanting pleasure, wanting to avoid pain, the desire for things to be different. But here's the key. When that craving gets stronger, when it really digs its hooks in, it transforms into upādāna, clinging. That's the critical link right there. And once you're clinging, that fuels a process called bhava, or becoming, which is basically you solidifying your identity around this whole cycle. And what does that lead to? Well, the whole shebang, suffering, or dukkha.
Okay, let's pause and really zoom in on that one link in the chain, clinging or upādāna. Because honestly, this is the whole game. This is the linchpin of the entire system.
So the word in the original Pali is upādāna. And yeah, we translate it as clinging or grasping. But the literal translation is, get this, fuel. Just that one word, fuel, completely changes how you see this, doesn't it? It's the mental act of holding on, but it's also what's feeding something.
And this is where they use this absolutely brilliant metaphor to drive the point home. They say, think of that feeling of dissatisfaction, that dukkha, as a fire. It's constantly burning. But what does a fire need to keep burning?
Right. It needs fuel. And this is the profound shift in perspective they're offering. The stuff that happens in your life, the good experiences, the bad ones, the boring ones, that stuff isn't the fire. It's not even the problem. Our mental grasping, our clinging, that is the fuel we keep tossing onto the flames, keeping that fire of dissatisfaction roaring. And they don't leave it vague either. They get super specific about what this fuel is made of. They identified 4 main types. First, clinging to sensual pleasures, wanting that good feeling to last forever. Second, clinging to your own views and opinions, that powerful need to be right. Third, clinging to rites and rituals, thinking that just going through the motions will save you. And the big one, the deepest one, is clinging to this idea of a solid, permanent self.
Okay, so this might all sound a bit grim, but here's where it gets really hopeful.
Because if the diagnosis is correct, if dissatisfaction is a fire and clinging is its fuel, then the solution becomes almost shockingly simple. It might not be easy, but it is simple. Stop adding fuel.
The logic is just beautiful in its simplicity. The whole chain of causation we just looked at, it runs in reverse too. You see it right here. If you can stop the craving, the clinging has nothing to grab onto, so it ceases. And when the clinging ceases, there's no fuel for becoming. And when that whole process grinds to a halt, well, the fire just goes out. The whole chain reaction collapses on itself.
So that begs the question, right? What's left when the fire goes out? What does a life of non-clinging actually look and feel like?
And it's really important to get this right. This isn't about becoming some kind of emotionless robot or just not caring about anything. In fact, it's the total opposite. It's about being able to fully, completely experience everything life throws at you, the good, the bad, all of it, without getting burned. It's this profound peace that comes from not needing your experiences to be anything other than what they are.
As one text puts it so perfectly, when one does not cling, one is not agitated. And when you're not agitated, you personally attain nibbana. And that word, nibbana, literally means extinguishment. Not the extinguishment of you, but the extinguishment of the fire. The flame finally goes out because there's just no more fuel. So this ancient diagnosis, thousands of years old, lands right here in our laps with a very modern, very personal question. A question for you to take with you. What in your life is fueling your fire? What are you clinging to so tightly? What beliefs, what desires, what ideas about yourself are you throwing on the flames, keeping your own fire of dissatisfaction burning?